Hey, welcome to the Cam Otis show. In-person edition, but still using Zoom. I mean, how would we do podcasts without Zoom? I don't know.
We don't know anything else.
Yeah, there's probably some other tools out there, but once you get using a tool, it's hard to bounce off of it when it works.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of this crescent wrench I got. It's black, flat black. I think I actually got it sometime in the Army somehow. Uh, and it's a 10-inch, and it just has this feeling. I've got other crescent wrenches. Heck, I've got box end, I've got open end, I've got sockets. I grab that thing for almost everything, man. When I make my go tool bag, it's always in there. There's no doubt about it. That wrench has been used for more things: hammer, bolts, screws, you name it. There's something about it. So why change, right?
Well, it's probably a lot better than all the new ones that are overly molded to fit your hand too.
There's something to be said for that too. I was thinking about my hunting buddies, and I've talked about that with pistols. You can buy these aftermarket grips for your pistol that have all the grooves for your fingers, and that just, unless it's made for exactly your hand, it's only going to, it never feels quite right. And then here's the other thing one of my hunting buddies brought up that's kind of the blinding flash of the obvious, is that grip is made for your right hand. What if you want to shoot left hand or vice versa?
Right.
It don't work that way. It's not ambidextrous. So I'm not a fan of those. Never have been. I think it's more fancy, glossy than it is useful.
Yeah, definitely.
But what I really wanted to talk about, ironically, in that, because I think we both just slammed something, but was humble. Kind of the thought is humbleness and gratitude, or a gratitude acceptance.
We gotta get a cheers first.
Oh yeah, yep. Thank you. Little live whiskey action here. Since I did it on, you may not have heard that on the microphone. There you go. Here at this time. For those of you who don't know, there's a tradition that honestly don't know where it came from. I don't know if it came from my old regiment, 10 Special Forces Group, if it was a German Bundeswehr thing, or some combination of the two. But years ago, somebody taught me that every time you cheers, you tap your glass to the bar or the table, whatever. And it was a tap of the glass to those who weren't there with you, those who can no longer cheer. So if you're ever wondering that, at least, fact check me on that one and let me know.
I was gonna say, I got a buddy of mine that works at a bar. He told me, because he does it too, but he said it's for the establishment.
It's for the establishment. Oh,
Yeah.
so you're
cheers to the house.
Cheers to the house. I prefer mine better.
Yours a little better.
Yeah, mine's a better folklore sort of thing than yeah, thanks to the house. If the house is buying me a drink, then yes, I'll tap the bar, and my buddies who can't be with me anymore will appreciate that.
Just thank the house of the good tip, I'd say.
There you go.
They appreciate it more too.
Yeah, they probably do. The bartender probably does. But I was thinking about this subject of humbleness and accepting gratitude, because it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting, really, truthfully, a dilemma. Because what do we, as a humble person, you tend to be very gracious towards people, right? So, and in that gracious, you say thank you, and man, you did a good job. I really appreciate everything you did. And in that same sense, those things come back to you. And what I find interesting is, because I'm right there with it, is how do you handle that? As a somebody who is humble, is not like, hey, I did this, I did that. No, it's we or they, or, you're giving those credits. But then when somebody comes and says, man, you did a really good job. I really appreciate everything you did. How do you do that? After 9/11, the thanking a vet thing started. And I remember that, still have trouble with that. When people say, oh, well, thank you for your service. And I'm like, yep.
Did my job.
Yeah.
I've seen you say it about 100 times at a grocery store or somewhere.
Yeah.
Did my job.
So how do you handle that? Because good, bad, or indifferent there, son, you are a product of the environment that you grew up in. And I've watched you in some situations in a very similar thing, particularly rugby.
I was going to say,
yeah,
this topic is pretty relevant after yesterday.
Maybe even relevant in the glass. And thank you to that family who
GC, if you're listening. Actually, he might listen.
GC, this is tell mom and dad this is some great whiskey. We appreciate that.
Oh, but yeah, so it's very relevant. Yesterday we had our last home game of the year with U of A, and coaching the JV team. The captain of my JV team got me a nice bottle of whiskey, got the other coaches bottles too, not just me, but the family was there and really appreciative. And yeah, same thing, kind of on the spot of just, it's such a strange thing how I don't know, like you want words of praise. You kind of want that affirmation. What's the love language? Words of affirmation, I think.
Yeah, that's it. You nailed it.
But yet it is weird when it happens. Like, and I'm sure you could see it on my face yesterday after I spoke with the player and his parents. It made my day. Those things are the reason I love coaching. But yet I don't really have anything to say whenever it comes. And I was thinking about that because Otis did text me this topic ahead of time. So I was able to think a little bit on this, and I realized the relevance of yesterday is probably what made you think of it. But I think to me, it's just like how you would answer when people, the think of that thing, as you put it. When you see it as just doing the job and your desired outcome is not the gratitude, then the gratitude's a kind of a funky thing. And I think that's what it is. It's, as much as I'm out there coaching rugby because I want to have an impact on these players and help them become, better men and ready for the life they leave after they leave the university. It's the graciousness of it is not one of the things I think about. And I think because it's not like the desired outcome, I guess, I think it kind of just feels awkward when it happens.
It does. And then, I've yet to come up with a good solution for us. Really why I want to talk about it, because there is an awkwardness to it. Because when you feel like, not in an undeserved way, but in a, hey, I'm doing what I love to do. And when people thank you over and above that, in that, for instance, the bottle of whiskey way, or even, something as simple as, the thanking the vet thing that started years ago and continues on now. There is a bit of a awkwardness to it, in a almost, I think maybe as we fumble for this in the psychoanalysis of this,
I need some more whiskey to get through
yeah,
this one.
as the whiskey will help us become great psychologists in this scenario. But maybe it's a fear of failure, a fear of success is another one, because when you're more successful, more people tell you, depending on whatever it is you're doing, whether you're a surgeon, a carpenter, or whatever, right? You want that, think about a carpenter, or a builder, or a custom home builder, and you want people to say, man, that was a great job. You want them to write those reviews, but it still feels awkward. And I've had several friends in that industry, and they get that same feeling. And that, well, I'm doing something I love to do. And that's, we'll say in the home building, helping somebody build their dream house, build their, their family's
forever home,
their forever home, whatever the phrase is. And when somebody's super grateful about that, they're in that same place that we are, that you were or are as a rugby coach, that I am as a veteran. And there's that awkwardness, and maybe it is a little bit of fear of success. This just popped into my head. There's maybe it's the abundance of exchange, because as a humble leader, somebody who does what they love to do, you're giving, right. And we always talk about it goes around, it comes around, right. And then the irony of it is, when it comes around, you're like, oh, wait, I didn't really, I don't deserve this, is this feeling. But in reality, you do deserve it, because you earned it. You earned the gratitude. You did a good job. You made an impression on somebody's life. You built them a beautiful house. You helped somebody, establish their next adventure in life, whatever that may be. And you did that for them. And you know what, whether you're ready to admit it now or not, you deserve that gratitude.
I got a theory on the fear of success side. I think that when we think of people who are like praise seeking, we think about how that erodes your performance, I guess I would say. It if you're doing something because you love it, like Vicky said, building the houses, coaching rugby, whatever it is, if you're doing it because you love it, it's good, and you're going to have a big impact. And the opposite there is if you're doing it for the praise, like if that's your desired outcome, I think it tends to erode your ability in a certain way. And I think maybe that is kind of that gut reaction that you and I both have in those situations, is not wanting. Dogs are here. If you're not watching on video, you'll see them poke their heads up. But I think it's this fear that by accepting that gratitude, you can erode your purpose in that kind of a sense. And then you lose your ability to perform in a broad sense.
Well, and I'll jump into that with, something you've brought up before is external drivers versus internal drivers, extrinsic versus intrinsic. And maybe there's a bit of a fear of, by accepting praise, that we're becoming our driver may be becoming external.
Yeah,
and
I think you're right.
When we think of that and how that portrays us, it's not how we want to be portrayed. We want to have that and want to be that person that, and do what we're doing because it's an internal thing. There's an internal value to it. And it's not because somebody's coming up and patting you on the back and say, wow, great job, I appreciate it. It's nice to have, it's nice to hear that, but I don't think that's not why we're doing it.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm thinking now, because that makes sense logically, but I also know that I do not go through that chain of thoughts every time this happens.
No.
So I'm thinking, Lukey, get down.
Hey.
Interrupting the podcast.
No, sir. I know, in a minute. Okay.
But what I'm thinking, because it is that like awkwardness of it, I wonder how much of it is just not having the personality type of like attention, like not being attention grateful. If it kind of goes into that same vein, that it's, when people are gracious towards you, when people are thanking you, that it's like, oh, look at all this stuff you did. And if your thought is, oh, I didn't really do it, I'm just working. That type of an approach, you don't really want the spotlight on you. You know, as weird as that is to say, I'm thinking back as being like a head coach on a team to say you don't want the spotlight. But, you know, you're not out there just hear yourself talk. We've been with some coaches like that. Not the best coaches I've coached with, but I think that's where that gut reaction comes from is you don't want to be in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a desire to just do your job and, you know, do it behind the scenes even.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, that's a bit of the nature of, you know, how I grew up in the Army too. I remember, you know, the Spotlight Ranger was a derogatory term, because what a Spotlight Ranger, to define that term, what that means is it's the guy that when he's in the leadership position, he expects everybody to do everything. And then when he's not in the leadership position, he doesn't do the work, sits around and expects other people to get it done because, you know, it's not his responsibility anymore. It's not his grade on the line. It's not a team player. And, you know, that's probably another factor to it is that, you know, don't want to stand out as an individual, because individuality, you know, it takes individuals to make a team, but when you're the Spotlight Ranger, then you're not being a team player.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time with rugby. Quit messing with the dog, Dad. We talk about all the time with rugby of, you know, 15 players on the field, 15 as one is what you want to do, you know, everyone functioning together. And inside of that, just like any sort of cohesive team in a team environment, when you're trying to function as one unit, everyone has their individual jobs, and it's that recognition of the job inside of the grander organization. And I think it's something, as weird as it always is to compare these sort of things, it's something you talked about with your time as a Green Beret. And you know, the quiet confidence is one. Quiet professional, I think, is the phrase you use. As a forward in rugby, my favorite thing I had, this would have been long time ago, probably coming up on 10 years ago. I had a coach tell me that I don't want to see your face at all during the game because you should be in every single ruck doing the dirty work.
Hey, no.
But it's that approach of understanding your job and then wanting to do it. And I think that's a good approach, and it works because it lets you focus in on that. But then I think the deflection there of the praise and of the gratitude, I think, is because not that you feel undeserving, but more so that you know it's not you. I think back to Engage with the little kids in the fall. I get a lot of thanks from parents. They tell me this is the only sport their kid plays and how much they love it, and they look forward to it every Sunday, and they wish we did more and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm the head coach. Yeah, I'm a board member. It wasn't me though. You know, I got 8 coaches out there helping out. I got the other little kids helping that kid. Like, I don't view it as me. And I think that's the reason why that gratitude feels awkward, because you're viewing it as a team. And when you view it as a team, it's weird to get individual praise. I'm much more, you know, we had the Arizona alumni dinner, 53rd year for the club last weekend, got all the alumni in town, awesome time. But in that same sense, I could get praise when I hear them talking about the coaching staff or good things we're doing and all that. I liked it. And then I get thanked individually. I don't like it. So I think that's what it has to go back to, is that recognition of being a part of the team and just wanting to do your job inside that team. And then thinking the praise isn't for you, the praise is for the team as a whole.
Well, it's almost the, you know, which would you rather have, a Super Bowl trophy or an MVP trophy? You know, I mean, that's kind of, that's an extreme, but there's a lot of truth to that, right? You want the team to succeed, and then, you know, the good players, the ones who are real MVPs, will tell you that they would trade in every MVP trophy for a Super Bowl trophy, and not, you know, because it's about the team. It's not about me. It's not about sneaking in all kinds of places. It's not about, you know, what have I done for the team in a public sense. with public recognition. It's about the team being successful, and that's where it really comes to bear and has become successful.
Well, what you
Go
made
ahead.
me think is it's I'm blanking on the president's name. Not ask not what you can do, what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Kennedy.
It's Kennedy, yeah. I think what we're getting to is the same type of thing there. I think the reason I don't like praise for what I do in rugby is because I'm just returning the favor of what I got out of rugby.
Mm-hmm.
I've said on this podcast multiple times, rugby's the best thing that ever happened to me. And actually, since we're going a little bit more editorial today with the whiskey, I can explain that finally. That is not a shot at my wife, because if it wasn't for rugby, I wouldn't be here in Tucson. I wouldn't have met her. We wouldn't be married. I would be probably in Colorado somewhere off doing, I don't even know what I would do without rugby. See, that's the point. But without rugby, I wouldn't have any of these things that I love. I wouldn't have career I have. I wouldn't have any of these experiences I have. All my friends, I'm trying to think. Everyone but one of my groomsmen at my wedding was a guy I played rugby with.
Yep.
That's what it gave me. And so I think the sense is, and I bet you could say the same type of thing about your experience in the Army, of you get so much out of it that you don't want any praise because you already got what you wanted. Like, there's an alumni at the alumni dinner last week, and there was a guy who was talking about how the other alumni guys he played with saved his life. He went through a lot of financial troubles, and he was thinking about taking his own life. And it wasn't his family. Now his family was there for him, but it was the rugby people who came together and got him back on his feet and helped him. And I think that's what we're there for. That's what I'm there for. And when you listen to him talk about why he coaches vets, that's what you were there for.
Yeah.
The grander purpose.
Yeah. Is to give back. It's not to get praise and accolades for it. But I want to flip it in the sense of, so how do you accept that? How do you accept that sort of that gratitude? If you're a humble leader has intrinsic drive towards success, and somebody says, like for me, thank you for your service. And I say various combinations of it, various different ways of saying it, from it was an honor and a privilege, or just thank you. And the dogs are happy that somebody is coming here. But it is that sort of a thing, because you have to think about it in the sense of, if you're truly that way, hey,
cut it out. I'm gonna go put him inside. You keep going.
Well, if it's truly that way, if you're truly that way and that type of person, then how, you owe it to the person that gave you the compliment, gave you a bit of gratitude for what you do. You owe a good reply to them, not a yeah, whatever, or
not
I'm
deflecting.
Deflecting, or even an embarrassing sort of thing. It actually makes me think of the woman that you say, wow, you look really good, that dress works, your new haircut, whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, well, this old thing, or just doing it the same way I've always, that
Take
sort
the
of
compliment.
thing. Take the compliment. And I think we all could do a better job of that, because when you give somebody a compliment, you want to hear them acknowledge it,
because otherwise you won't give another one.
right?
And I think that's what you're getting at, of as far as why it's important to still properly, appreciate that praise, the gratitude from folks, because if you don't appreciate it, then they'll feel that, and that once that feeling of reciprocity is gone, they're not gonna, they're not gonna be thanking you anymore. And I think, if you're gonna give it a step by step, if you want, like we're talking about, if it's not about you and you see the bigger picture on that, I think the only thing is don't deflect immediately. Show genuine appreciation.
Mm.
And after you say that, thinking back to my mind yesterday, shaking the hand, saying thank you very much. I appreciate that. You have a great son. You guys done an amazing job. I think I called him a nerd. But you appreciate it. And then I don't know, but I don't even think I deflected after that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you show that genuine appreciation, even though I can't put it into words very much, but it's just a thank you, I appreciate that. That means a lot, I think. And I think that we far too often in that kind of a situation and all sorts of, less common social situations, I think we tend to look for the script.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, I don't know how to respond when somebody says that to me. And I know I'm definitely one like that. Gosh, I could go back to high school trying to figure out how to hit on girls. I didn't know what to say. That's why I couldn't get a girlfriend. might have been some other reasons. But it's like you want that script for it. And sometimes we overcomplicate things when we look for that. It's like, this is going to sound, I guess, a little sappy, but there's a reason thank you means thank you. It means a lot. Sometimes the words are there for a reason. English language has been around a long time, and things like thank you, I appreciate that, can carry a lot of meaning. And I mean, you mix in a handshake and some eye contact, that means more than some sappy script that you put together to say every time somebody thanks you for your service.
Oh yeah. And I think it's it goes back to something I've talked about several times. It has to be genuine and authentic too. Because if you go into this script mode, just like anything else, whether it's sales or trying to meet a girl or whatever, and you've got a script, well, scripts don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Scripts can be a great way to, get a baseline, but it's not genuine and authentic. And, as long as it's genuine and authentic, who you really are and saying it with true care and gratitude that, to return it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes all the difference in the world. I don't think anybody that is doing that is looking for, even though going back to the exchange concept, I don't think anybody is looking for a direct exchange of that. Somebody comes and gives you a gift in gratitude like that. I don't think they were expecting you to pull out another bottle of whiskey and go, yeah, well, thanks for having your son here and giving them a bottle of whiskey. It doesn't work that way, because then that's the counter to it. I would say that's a negative,
Mm-hmm.
even in the sense of, well, now you've just trumped their attempt to be gracious for something you've done for them.
And I think in that sense, it's kind of a, the reciprocity cycle we're talking about. It's one of those things that's interesting how we don't want that immediate reciprocity of it, but also kind of to your point of, you get the gift, somebody gives you something for your birthday. Well, they're probably going to be expecting you to get something for them for their birthday. Now, is it the end of the world? No. Is it a written thing? No. But is just this, I don't know, this idea of, call it common culture or whatever, but reciprocity of the people around you, trust in the people around you, love of the people around you, that when somebody does something good for you, you want to give it back to them in some sort of a way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're totally right. And if you're taking notes and writing out your script or I guess don't write a script, but you're writing down some notes for how to accept gratitude from somebody, I definitely would agree that I think trying to throw it back to them, I think kills it in a weird way.
Yeah, because it becomes a one-upmanship, if you will. It's the
gift giving contest.
Yeah, gift giving contest. It's the the lunch with your buddy. No, I'm paying, and then the next time you're like, well, I'm paying, and we're gonna have steaks, and he's like, well, no, next time I'm paying, and we're gonna have steak and lobster, and one-upmanship. And that's not, when somebody says, man, thank you for what you've done, they're not looking for that. They genuinely are gracious for it. And I think that's a key piece of it, and learning to accept it, because if you really care about what you do and somebody thanks you for what you do, shouldn't you be thankful that you're getting a little bit of recognition? We're not putting it up on a billboard or anything in that sense, but it is that sort of an attitude that I think can make a huge difference in it. And you have to be willing to sit and listen. I think some people are probably, maybe they're so introverted that they almost run away from the opportunity for it to happen. But it is, people want to thank you. I mean, generally speaking, most people in the world want to thank you for helping them, doing something for them, give them a hand, whatever. People want to thank you for that, whether you expect it or you feel you deserve it or not. And if you don't give that opportunity, aren't you kind of screwing them over and doing something opposite of what we just said that you said you wanted to do? It's just, help people, be nice to people. And how's that for irony?
More I think about it, the more I think it has to do with the fear of success. Because I think, and I do not remember from taking a test of what my actual love languages were. I know I do like words of affirmation, but I think that it is that you put so much weight on it that it's almost like the fear of success, in the sense of not maybe thinking that it won't be as impactful, or those type of things, that those feelings that if you're, when you get it, maybe it won't be as good as you think it will, that type of thing. Like you're like building it up too much. I think that might be part of it, because you do want the gratitude, but then you also, I don't know, maybe it's a fear of the gratitude being showcasing that you didn't do as much is what I started thinking there. Puts a spotlight on the work.
Yeah.
And it just in a self-conscious way, that you're worried that you're not actually doing as much as you think you are.
Maybe. I keep falling back.
That's a sip on the whiskey and look
Yeah.
up for a moment. One for me.
Yeah. Well, and I'm about ready to wrap this up because I'm all out of whiskey. And we didn't bring the bottle out with us. But what I keep going back to, the more I think about it, is as that type of person, a humble leader, a humble person who does it for intrinsic reasons, we tend to feel like we should be on, and this is here's some irony for you. We feel like we should be on the upper hand of the abundance of exchange. Like, it's kind of like like I was mentioning before about, you and your buddy going to lunch and escalating it each time. Well, he bought last time, and we went to Whataburger, and this time we're going to Big Daddy, and next time, and you keep one upping, and it's almost now that I'm thinking about it in the ironic fashion, is it doesn't fit for what we're saying is the right person, the humble person, the humble leader. And now you're talking about, well, if you thank me, then I got to thank you. If you give me a present for doing something I love to do as a symbology of gratitude from you, well, then I got to do something back. When in reality, if we accept that for what it is and don't feel that we have to have the higher ground of exchange, and meaning, that if you gave me 5, well, I got to give you 10.
Right.
We allow that to to be that way, to receive that. I think there's a lot more going on there and in that aspect, because otherwise you really are being selfish, because it's, you give me a bottle of 10-year-old whiskey. Well, I'm going to give you a bottle of 15-year-old whiskey. I'll show you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what anybody's looking for.
Yeah. And I think if you have that gut instinct of, wanting to overpay it back, I think it's really interesting how you're putting it, how it's like the humble person wants to be on the giving side, not the receiving side. But if you're that type of person, and I'm talking partially to myself for our little case study about me with rugby, it's not a gift giving competition back to that person. It's more so, I think, that gratitude should be fuel for your intrinsic motivation. And you should give more, not to that person, just in general, whatever it is. Take that example of GC, the player whose parents gave us the amazing bottle of whiskey, probably one of the better bottles I've had. But it's not a like, oh, I need to go do more for him. I need to go take his family out to dinner while they're still in town. But it is, I think about the other kids on the team that aren't seniors, and time to go back to work for them in that sense. And then kind of just a closing thought on, because I'm out of whiskey too. Dang, that motorcycle's loud. Oh my gosh, that broke my focus. But
Yeah.
I think as long as you're genuine, that's what really matters. Like I can think of, like I said, the thank you and the handshake from a genuine person means a hell of a lot more than a rehearsed speech from somebody who's not genuine. Put out the freaking billboard about what you did. Who cares, right? Yeah. I'd rather get a handshake and a real eye contact thank you than put it up on a billboard.
Yeah, well, I'm going to shift us to what we learned, because before I forget, since I didn't write anything down during this show, unlike all my other ones, all our other ones, is that if you look at the exchange as a fair exchange, it doesn't always have to be a direct fair exchange. And what I mean by that is that person that gives you the gratitude and you say thank you and you feel like your thank you back to them is a lesser thank you, whether it's in a gift giving or whatever. The way you repay it is you repay it through continuing to do what you do, continue to be that person that you are, who caused that individual to have such gratitude for what you're doing. And that, to use, a phrase that describes it is it will resonate in the universe.
Yep.
And it will come back at some point, whatever, you may not recognize it directly, but it will. And there will also be a time where you can repay it back to somebody in that same sense. So Camden, what'd you learn?
First, that we should have put the dogs inside before we started recording.
Yeah, they didn't like us talking and not including them.
No, they're a little, I guess we swear on the podcast sometimes. I was gonna say attention horse. Only word that came to mind for it.
Yep.
But no, I think I learned that not to dwell on whether or not people understand that you're accepting the gratitude. Because I think I've done that with the player yesterday, and then there's a bunch of other things that have come to mind where family giving gifts, friends doing favors, anything like that, of just like that. I'm looking back on it, I can see myself multiple times doing the like I really appreciate it, and like over explaining how much I appreciate it. And I think people know. I think it's just that simple. I think that people know how much you appreciate them appreciating you. Gosh, they're talking about a gratitude cycle. And I think that because people know it, they wouldn't do it if they didn't know. I like kind of the same thing we were saying earlier. If you don't accept the gratitude from somebody, you're not going to get that again. If you don't accept the compliment, you're not going to get another compliment. I think that people can tell when you're being genuine in that sense. And I don't know, makes me want to get back to work, go coach some more rugby.
There you go. All right. Well, this has been educational, and I hope Hope everybody found something from it. And I'll just say, one little tidbit from the tribe and purpose world. If you're struggling in that, how do I do this? How do I accept that? How do I be more confident in myself to accept some gratitude from others for work I've done, or flip it, and how do you give gratitude? Then go to findyourpurpose.coach and download the
situational profile.
Thank you. I almost had it. I was like stuck on personal. The see, I almost did it again. Situational profile, and help you understand who you are. It'll give you that quick snapshot of who you are and how things affect you, and how you can get a better understanding for who you are, because you got to know who you are before you can become anything else in this life and in this world. So, Camden, why don't you run us out?
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's episode. Special thanks to our sponsor, Tribe and Purpose. Find your tribe, find your purpose. To learn more, go to findyourpurpose.coach. Thank you not to our guests. Gosh, I always do that whenever I'm going off top of my head. You can check out the Cam Otis Show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can listen to all of the episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you again, and we'll see y'all next week.